Welcome to the Beyond Vision podcast, where we focus on the human side of advanced eye care. Join us in exploring the way we approach our collective pursuit of excellence. In each episode, we'll uncover the inspiring stories of how our vision, mission, and core values shape the way we love and care for each other and our patients. Hear from our passionate team and discover what sets Vance Thompson Vision apart in the world of advanced eye care.
Hi, welcome to the Beyond Vision podcast by Vance Thompson Vision. I'm Megan Petermann, your guest host for today, and sitting with us is Jill Netten. Today we're going to be talking about interviewing and all the inner workings of what is successful and not successful for us. Jill and I both sit on the People and Culture team at Vance Thompson Vision. So our hope today, while we're talking about interviewing and interviewing styles, is that you walk away with some tips and tricks on how to get successfully get great candidates in your door. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about you and how you found your way to Vance Thompson Vision.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm Jill Netten. I have been at Vance Thompson Vision for almost 3 years.
That's amazing.
Prior to that, though, I've been in HR since 2012. I went to college at Dordt, knew that I wanted to do something with people, thought it might be in healthcare.
Sure.
Turns out I didn't have the stomach for it,
Yeah.
but have loved to be behind the scenes and still have an impact on healthcare and working with people.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, tell us a little bit about recruiting and how long you've been doing recruiting, because obviously it's a big part of what we do and why we're here today.
Yeah. So I started in HR in 2012, and I've been in a lot of roles within HR. I've been a full recruiter, where that has been my sole focus.
Sure.
I've also been in generalist roles where it's been a piece of my role, and I've been able to expand my HR knowledge. Recruiting is kind of where I started.
Yeah.
So it definitely has my heart and a passion for it, for sure.
Awesome. Well, very good. So you've had lots of years of experience in interviewing and recruiting. We do it a little bit different here at Vance Thompson Vision. So talk to me about the process and what it looks like for us on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. The one unique thing I would say about Vance Thompson Vision is really how intentional we are. And it's somewhat of a lengthy process, and we've sometimes have been questioned on is that purposeful and should it be that long? And I would always argue yes. Within recruiting, they are spending as much time deciding if this is a good fit for them as we are deciding if they're a great fit for us.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely a two-way street, and so I think our process is thorough,
Yes.
but also really beneficial for both us and the candidate.
Absolutely. Talking about beneficial, so why is that beneficial for us? What about the process makes it work so well for us?
Yeah, the nice part about it is we get an incredible investment with our leaders. Our leaders spend the time with our candidates, so our candidates really get to see who they are and who we are and who they're going to be working with.
Absolutely.
We prioritize shadow time too, which I think is really helpful. It does take an additional step and time,
Sure.
but you really get to see the work environment that you're in. We prioritize them shadowing with someone, going through testing lanes. So people hopefully have a really good sense of what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day, because it's never fun to be surprised on day one. That's right.
That's right. And I think it's awesome because our doctors take the time to sit with our candidates as well and really get to know them. They want to know who they're going to be working with, not working for, or vice versa, but working with. And I think that really shows a little bit of our culture and how important it is for us to know the people that we're working with, so we can build those relationships and make it a better working environment. People want to stay and they want to hang out with us for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
how do you think it might hinder the process, and especially for the candidate?
Yeah, there is a risk when it takes a long time. I would argue that we're still probably in a talent war, right? There is a lot of different opportunities out there. And when people are ready to make a shift, they have got to that point in their life, they're anxious to make that shift. And so it needs some patience on both sides. And so there is a risk that they may find another opportunity during that time.
Absolutely.
But I think that still the benefits outweigh the risk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we find those people that are willing to wait are the ones that we're sticking around and hanging around with us. So yeah, I think it's a great process. How would you say that our process is different from what you've experienced in the past?
Yeah, so one unique thing about Vance Thompson Vision is a lot of our work is on-the-job training. And so while we love to have certifications and love to have technical background, our intention, our focus is on our culture, it's on our values. We really are hiring for that right fit. We want someone to feel like they belong, that they're excited to come to work, they're coming with positive energy. They're meeting our core values of fun, caring, egalitarian, committed, excellence. Outside of that, we could teach it.
Absolutely.
And so the process is just a little bit unique because it's more about getting to know them as a person rather than maybe their certifications or skills that they have.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's bringing in those people who are aligned with our values, and very good, very good. So let's switch gears a little bit. So during the interview process, what questions are we asking? Are we asking the same questions to every candidate? What does that look like?
Yeah. So our process starts with talking with people and culture. And some of those questions are going to be the same because at the end of the day, we want to have consistency through our process. And because it's not in the first round job specific, it's really getting to know them as a person. And so those questions, that's really our focus in that first round. As they go through the process, they're going to have more time to get specifications on the specific job through that shadow experience, through the hiring manager interview. And so that may change a bit, but really our first round is just getting to know who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think some of the challenges are with recruiting in general these days? So we, we're kind of in that generation that wants to have such a purpose with where they work. What are you finding that might be a roadblock?
Yeah, I think an opportunity is just to make sure that we are really showing our story and telling people who they are so they can see themselves in that spot and what impact and difference that they're going to make.
Right.
One of the steps in our process is we send people a TED Talk.
Sure.
And
yes.
It's called How Real Leaders Inspire Actions by Simon Sinek. He's a really incredible, convicting speaker, but it talks about like what's our why, what gets you up and out of bed. And I think that is a challenge because as an employee, we want people to believe.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we find. That's when people stick. That's when they get that passion is ignited. And so I think it's just the opportunity is to go through and be thorough and take all the time and steps to make sure we're finding the right fit on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. What would be some of your favorite questions to ask candidates to maybe get into a little bit of their personality or find out a little bit more about them?
Yeah, I think there's a wide variety. I think my whole intent when I'm interviewing is to listen.
Sure.
And so part of it, I love to hear how people are making someone stay. I think that, especially in healthcare, we can see and hear some just incredible, tangible acts of people just doing incredible work in all different walks of life and different jobs that they're currently in. Another one that I love is who inspires you personally or professionally. We don't do life alone, and so it's so cool to see who's been walking alongside and who has that impact in people's life that have shaped them to who they are today.
Absolutely. We definitely get a wide variety of answers from spouses to children to coworkers to past coworkers. I think while I'm interviewing, one of the fun ones, and I know other coworkers of ours can relate to this, is what are you the go-to person for? What is that thing that you are just such a rock star at that when it comes up to your plate and you're not sure what to do, how can they go to you and how can you be help? And that really gives you a little bit of insight on, what their passions are, I guess, and how they can be helpful. So very good. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about preparation. How do you prepare for an interview, and how do you get into a mind frame of knowing what type of candidate you're looking for?
Yeah, and there is a lot of prep work in recruiting. I think that sometimes gets missed because we're like, oh, how hard can it be to find someone? There's tons of people. It should be just easy to fill. But we know that humans are just beautiful and complex, and that it's going to be different. And so I spend a lot of time working with hiring managers, figuring out what are some of their non-negotiables. What are those things that they need for this role? What are some nice to haves or would be a benefit, but not deal breakers? It's also really just getting to know the team that person is going to be on, and that's just spending time. Maybe it's in that galley to figure out what that dynamic looks like.
Absolutely.
It's just really helpful as you are chatting with people, and you can give a better explanation of what that culture looks like.
Absolutely. What about when you are finding it difficult to fill a role? We've got a couple of different positions that are maybe a little bit more difficult, and I'm assuming that is not unique to us at Vance Thompson Vision. So what are those steps that you take to fill those hard to fill?
Yeah, there's a couple different options. I think building a pipeline is probably number one. So starting early and often and getting that employer brand out there, which I think Vance Thompson Vision especially has done beautifully, is telling our story. And so then when it comes to an opening, people have heard about us, have heard about it, that it's great to work there, and they want to. And sometimes it's like, I don't even know what the position is, but I know that I align with that company. And so knowing, being confident and convicted in who we are and what we bring to the table is important. I think there's also just some unique recruiting strategies. We've utilized social media. I think there's a place and time maybe for a tuition assistance or a sign-on, or maybe it's a referral, because we know that our employees refer the best people. And so there is statistics out there too that if you are working with a friend, that retention goes up too. We want to feel a sense of belonging at work. We're typically more committed when we're working with our friends because we want to do well for them.
Absolutely. Very good. That's such a great answer. And I think that we see that a lot at Vance Thompson Vision. Awesome. So I'm going to switch it over to more of a personal for you. When you were going through the recruiting process with us, or maybe in past positions, what were some more of the difficult questions that you got asked?
Yes, I mean, just since I've been recruiting for 12 years does not make me immune to hard and challenging questions. I feel like even after every interview, I'm like, whew, that was tough.
It's a little hard.
And some of those questions, even if I don't recall exactly what they were, a lot of it is reminding myself to like take a second to breathe. And I think that's important too for candidates to allow ourselves that time. I think when we are in an interview process, we have this innate need to feel like we have to give all these answers immediately and they have to be perfect and concise.
Right.
And typically, if we allow ourselves that
second to breathe, it's okay that there's silence. Gather our thoughts, and then we can actually put together a concise. The risk, if we don't allow ourselves that second, we typically ramble, maybe we forget the question. It's activating those active listening skills. Absolutely.
Or we're not trying to form an answer before the question's even done. And I think that's what's gotten me in trouble. I've worked really hard on active listening as I've grown in my career because I typically have a fast-paced thinking. And so I have to actively slow my mind down so I can listen fully to the question and what they're asking. And that's usually the piece where I get stuck, is if I catch myself thinking about my answers before I even said it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's such a great reminder. I think that applies in so many aspects of our lives of just slowing down and listening, taking that breath. When you're taking exams or getting a certification, I can attest to that personally, that it is just taking that time to slow down and give yourself a minute to think and not trying to think ahead. So very good. Well, what advice can you give to us or give to people that are out searching for new positions, or maybe even a position with us if you want to come join our work family? What advice can you give them?
Yeah, I think when I think about it, we were talking about how do I prep?
Yeah.
And so some of that answer included getting to know the hiring manager, getting to know
Yes.
what their non-negotiables are. I think that applies to you as a candidate as well. Well, know yourself, know what your non-negotiables are, know what you're looking for, and know your story. Practice that 30-second elevator speech.
Yep.
You are important. You are your biggest advocate. Know what you bring to the table.
Know your worth.
Know your worth. Right. Yeah. And I think that's a big piece of it. Do your homework. Know if you are going to align with that company or ask the right questions to figure that out. Because that's a journey. That's why there is a few steps in the process.
Absolutely.
But know yourself.
I love it. What very good. Well, I appreciate you joining me today on our podcast about interviewing and some tips and tricks that you can take away to successfully bring great candidates into your organization. So thanks for your time, and tune in for our next podcast just around the corner.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.